Evening, guys. Welcome back. This is the Above Average FPL podcast. My name's Adam, and as always, I'm joined by my mate Baker. How you doing this evening, mate?
I'm okay. Yeah, had a bit of COVID last week. I'm actually technically still positive. Very, very faint line, but still positive. So, but yeah, I feel fine now. So
Good,
all
good,
good, mate. You?
good stuff. Yeah, doing good. Yeah, I'm in full bill of health, I guess. I'm doing okay. I mean, well, I say I'm good. I mean, last week I was on jury service, which I couldn't really mention until now. So that's what I was doing last week. Unfortunately, I had to fly down south to see family this weekend on not so great circumstances. But yeah, back up here now, and just watching the City game, 0-0. It's all right. So we thought we'd have a chat and thought we'd get someone to join with us as well.
Who we got?
Yeah, I thought I'd turn up as well. Yeah. That's all right with you guys?
That's absolutely fine. So for anyone listening who's not watching on YouTube, so we have the current number 12 in the world in FPL at the moment, and that is your best mate, I guess. Dan, FPL Mate. How you doing, mate? You right?
Yeah, I'm good. Really good. Happy to be on. Yeah, I don't go on podcasts that often and stuff like that, so it's always a bit fun experience to chat with some other people and stuff. So yeah, very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
No worries. Yeah, I guess it is different when you are doing your own content, obviously all the time, and obviously being full time like you are. I mean, you're obviously, very, very much focused on making sure that you put out the best content for you, which makes perfect sense. So, but bit of a whirlwind season for you so far.
Yeah, it's been a unique one for sure. It's every time the rank goes up, it's just like this can't last. But I've been saying that since I think I broke into the top 1,000 around game week 9, and not left it since. And it's just been like this is going to come to an end eventually, and it just sort of hasn't. So yeah, here we are, 12th in the world. I'm sure this will be the peak, but still, I'm not complaining at all. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience.
No, do you think you can win it?
No, no. Well, technically, it's possible. Technically, of course, it's possible, but it's unlikely. We'll put it that way.
Are you going to try and win it?
Yeah, I am going to try and win it. Well, it depends. I think you have to kind of analyze it week by week, I think, because at the same time, I don't really want to. I would love a 2-figure finish. That's just would be insane. If I'm dropping to sort of like 100th by next game week, I know I'm not going to win it anyway. I'd probably rather make a play to go into the top 100 again, rather than try and get first, because you drop so far and it becomes less likely, which is probably what's going to happen after this game week when everyone's used their chips and stuff. It's probably going to go just out of reach for me, and at which case I will stop trying to go for number 1. But if I can get a grey arrow this week or something like that, yeah, we'll be in it to win it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think 37 is the big week for a lot of us, because I just feel like there's no nailed on captain, and we'll talk a bit more about captains and what we've done all season and where we've been. But I feel like that's a big opportunity where there's single game week players with really good fixtures and double game week, and some of them have got okay fixtures, but it's like, do you take that punt or not? So that, I think 37 is the fun. And I think a lot of us will react, I think, as well, based on what happens in this 36 one, because most people have got full set of doublers, and it's like, if it doesn't come off for you this week, like for anyone, we're all going to feel hard done by, because we're like, we've got doublers and stuff. But it's weird, isn't it? Because actually it's kind of like a weird single game week, isn't it? Because if everyone's got, it's not like, oh, I've got 6 double game weekers and you've got 11. Like everyone's got
11.
If everyone's got doublers, no one's got doublers.
Yeah, and about 40% of the game
to who has the right players rather than who has the double players.
Yeah, and then about 40% of the game have got 15, and a lot of those are double. But then, like if they're double, but then they're taking more hits, or I've seen that, you're like, I think it's just a week that everyone kind of wants over.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people are very excited about it. very excited about, because it is one of those weeks where most of us are gonna end up with 100+ points, or at least the engaged managers, we're all gonna end up on 100+ points, and whether everyone else has got 100 or not, there is a degree of excitement to that, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be a bit of a split on captaincy as well, so there could still be some swings. I think, yes, I think a lot will go Salah, but there are some other options out there potentially as well. So, you know,
what do you think Salah will be? Though? What do you think? What kind of ownership?
175.
Yeah, I'm projecting him about 170. I think just 169, 170. I think.
Yeah, and I don't have him, and it's really weird because you talk about 37 being a pivotal week, and you know 2 weeks ago I wasn't really bothered at like 350k roughly, and these 2 weeks, and I said this to a voice note to Baker, these 2 weeks like a poison chalice almost for me now, because I'm now looking at the top 100k, which is 41 points away. I've had a look, and I'm like, oh, actually I could get there, you know, and that could be the target. But if I don't go with Salah, you know, I either blow that out the water or I get really, really close. So you know, it's going to be a difficult one. I think this 36 is going to be an interesting, 37 especially as well.
It's more bust for you though, isn't it? So I mean, there's nothing wrong with going for a bold strategy like that at all. If you know, what's the difference between 180k or whatever and 250k?
Yeah, nothing.
Very little, really.
Yeah, nothing. So I mean, what we're going to look at today, so what we're going to try and do in the length of time that we've got until the City game finishes, is to, you know, just run through, you know, how we've sort of approached the season, and particularly you, Dan, how you've approached this season. Looking at a few stats from a site called anewpla.net. That's ANEWPLA.net. So quite a few of our stats have come from, or data has come from that site today. And then obviously we'll look at game week 36 and look at chip usage, look at what the template might be, and then you've shared with us kindly, you know, the kind of team you're looking at. Although I'd imagine you don't want people copying you, so there may be changes coming up.
I've come here to throw some curveballs, actually.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to tell some flat out lies about what I'm going to do.
That's cool.
In this stream.
That's all right. Only 2,000 people or whatever will see it. Not quite like the same numbers that you get, so don't worry about that too much.
Might be the competition though, mate. I'm pretty sure people will be searching.
Yeah, it's about the right people watching it, not the quantity.
True.
Exactly.
So I guess just very quickly, the audio version of the podcast will be available on any podcast player that you wish. We're also on YouTube, so check us out on there. And the channel is supported, as always, by our good friend Crypto Block Dan. He is a games analyst in the play to earn crypto space. So go check him out on Twitter. Lots of cool stuff going on there at the moment. Might as well have a quick look at a mini league.
Who's winning?
This is our mini league. Dan's been in there for about 3 weeks, and has come to steal all the plaudits. So
I'll leave if you want me to. Should have closed the league. You should have closed the league.
Well, that's true.
On you.
That's true. It is on us. So
it is on us.
But I mean, look,
some good people there, aren't there? You know, Hall of Fame #1, or soon to be in position 3, Finn Solly.
Yeah.
Our friend Jack in 4th.
Yeah, there's a few good names down there.
Chris Jenkins. Do we know Chris Jenkins?
I don't. So if Chris, if you're watching, if you're listening, just give us a shout on Twitter or comment on YouTube or something like that, and let us know who you are, because you're absolutely smashing it as well. So yeah, Dan's sitting there top on 2,531 points. But we've also got a league where he's kind of bottom of the screenshot at least. So yeah, so we've got the overall ranking, so we can actually see how far you are off of the top spot. 36 points, man. It's not many.
It's not massive, is it?
It's not massive. How much time do you spend, or have you spent, looking at people around you in terms of what they got left and their teams and stuff?
A little bit. I've spent a lot more time figuring out my own team and kind of looking at various pathways of transfers I can take, and kind of trying to project and predict points based on various different models that are available. So I spend more time on my own team, because I think it's a little bit too early, I think, to start looking too heavily on those teams around you. I think in the final game week, definitely, I'll be looking at every single person above me and seeing exactly what they'll be doing. But I think it's maybe slightly too early. I don't know. What do you think?
Though. I like it. No. I've seen, a few people that have been in really good positions talking about, oh, people around me have got this, or even like just saying on like Saturday, oh, I'm going to be okay because I've seen these people around me have got this, this, and this. And I'm like, I love the idea, the fact that you're still just thinking about your team. That's definitely a positive.
Yeah, I think you could get too distracted. I would rather, I've done this kind of most of the season of trying to carve out my own path in terms of what players to bring in and try not to be too influenced by, particularly social media noise. I call them Twitter traps. And there's always a few of them floating around every game week, which I try and ignore to the best of my ability.
So what's the secret, mate? How have you ended up here?
Well, I mean, the secret is obviously luck. I mean, that is the answer. If I gave another answer, I'd be lying. But I do think I have done some things right this year. I hope that they've been right anyway.
You've done stuff right, mate. You can't get to where you've been without doing stuff right,
I guess. But no, I think the biggest thing that I've done this year is go for a lot of differentials. But I think the key, if you're going to go for a lot of differentials and try and get ahead on a lot of picks, is just to be prepared to cut your losses very, very quickly if it doesn't go wrong. So, for example, I've had lots of real differential players. Some of them have worked out really well, some haven't. I had Mahrez at one point. It looked very bad for 2 weeks. He's gone. He goes. We'll replace him. We'll try someone else. We'll try a Sterling or we'll try a Maddison before anyone else is even really thinking about them. Going for players like Reece James nice and early. That could have gone horribly. I think I bought in Reece James something like game week 6, I think, or something like that. So before he'd even started a game.
I remember seeing your videos on that because it was around, because I remember seeing the video around sort of the game week 8, game week 9 fiasco, and seeing that you had brought in James early and you had picked up those big hauls from him, like that Newcastle game, for example, and stuff. And we can we'll see later on how we've done with Reece James, for example. You've done well there. And I tell you what, actually, a lot of the data that we've collected is actually sort of said exactly that, what you've been doing in terms of cutting and running when it hasn't quite worked out. So that's quite evident in what we see, at least. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
and a bit of luck, but hey,
you've got to make your own luck though at the end of the day, and I do fully believe that there are some picks which are just they're risky, they're dangerous, but you can get something out of it potentially, and maybe that's made a difference. Trying to get lucky and getting lucky at the same time is a good combo.
It's a great combo. Like I've according to any of your review and the world of anything you'll see in expected points, it looks like my luck has completely run out over the last 2 months, and it feels like nothing else but that. In that every single week since I played the wild card in 26, I've been below the expected points I should possibly have. But then when you look at it and you go, yes, but I did take Salah out for a couple of weeks to risk it on Bruno, and I haven't had Son for the last 5-6 weeks, and I've not had Robertson for the last 5 or 6 weeks, and I've not had Cancelo for last week for the last 5 or 6 weeks. And you're like, oh, okay, so the best 2 defenders and the best 2 midfielders in the game you didn't have, and you think you got unlucky, and you're like, It's like, the thing is, the better players get lucky more often, and I look at some of the things you picked and the good players. So, getting Son's a really interesting one as Tottenham fans, because Son is, as a Tottenham fan, actually become, in the last few weeks, has been a really bad asset for Tottenham as a player, in the fact that he's doing very, very little for the team. Nothing for the team, in fact. And when Lucas came off on the weekend, in all honesty, that could easily, as a Tottenham fan, have been Son. Son hadn't had a shot on goal of any kind within 60 minutes of the game at home to a depleted Leicester, and does nothing create. Like he gets assists because he's taken 150 corners this season, but anybody who takes 150 corners will get the odd assist, but he actually does nothing to try and create an assist for the team. So from a Tottenham fan, you can think sometimes that, God, he's quite frustrating. But actually, what you know is if you think of him for an FPL asset is, oh, you've got a midfielder who's doing nothing creatively, bar taking set pieces, which are really good for assists, because he's just sitting up front, just purely sitting up front all of the time, ahead of Harry Kane. Like, that's fantastic. And he's the best finisher in the world. Oh, okay. So the best finisher in the world is a midfielder and he's sitting up front. Fantastic. So when you just put the pure FPL mechanics on it, it's a really good, fantastic captain option. But when you're like, strangely, a Tottenham fan, I saw so many Tottenham fans this week, Captain Kane, because it's like, he's the one that's doing all the work. I did it, Adam did it, and Adam had both, in that sense. And he just is working so hard. But basically, half the time when he's working hard is he's trying to feed Son. And it's like, that's what's happened, in the last 5-6 game weeks, is that Kane got like 7 assists in the last 5-6 game weeks, and guess who scored all those assists? Yeah, it's been Son. So that's an interesting dilemma for us with Kane. You've got Son. If you had a Kane, would you switch?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, possibly.
You think it's worth? I think you'd need 4 points, right? So you think it's worth it at this point in the season for where? I guess for where you are, I don't know whether it would be, but
yeah, I don't know. I look at this double game week fixture, these fixtures for Spurs, and they look prime for Son, rather than a Kane. I know Kane's got a very good record against Arsenal, but had
a very good
to
record
beat
against
that
Leicester.
Offside trap.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he had good record against Leicester. That's a good, fair point.
Yeah.
But I don't know, against particularly as Liverpool and Arsenal are probably going to dominate the possession against Spurs. Maybe that typically causes Kane to drop a little bit deeper and try and get a hold of the ball a little bit more. And Son is going to be the primary beneficiary of that, isn't he? Really, on the counter attacks, beating that Liverpool offside trap, which is not infallible. It can be beaten, and if there was going to be a player to beat that offside trap, it is going to be arguably one of the best offside trap beaters in world football.
Yeah.
So I like Son a lot for this double. I really do. But then for the final 2 fixtures, I quite like Kane.
Norwich. Norwich game, though, like.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of people captain Son in that last game.
There will.
Yeah.
But I think Kane is potentially the better captain in game week 38. So
it's tough, isn't it?
It's tough.
It could be that. It could be that really Salah Mane moment from last season with Teddy Bear type thing. The guy that won it. So if you get on the right one, it could be the difference between third or fourth or first. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that. Yeah, no, and the only thing that worries me, I guess, about this week against Liverpool, full stop, is obviously is Kane going to find that space with Thiago in there? I'm just not convinced that he's going to be able to drop into that space, because it won't be there that he would get against other teams. But if he can find a way to stay away from Thiago somehow, whether it be him or maybe even Fabinho, but then yeah, potentially. And you're right, Son's one of the best on the shoulder of the back four, making runs behind, and Kane will always look to find him, and he's elite at passing. So
the Alisson thing in it as well, though. Like, if there's ever at the moment, just everyone is just crapping themselves every time they come up against Alisson, and it's like, if there's ever a player that's not going to, it's potentially Son.
Yeah.
If you think about that chance that Kane missed from the back pass with on Schmeichel, like that's the same. Alisson's out and on him, whereas you think, I think someone might have gone round him, in that case, and done stuff. So yeah, it's definitely on my mind. It's bloody hard as a Spurs fan to take Harry Kane out, mate, with 3 weeks to go.
Let's continue.
No, because he does quite well at the end of the seasons as well, doesn't he, Kane, typically?
Yeah. Let's continue on this how your season's going type thing, and look at the data that I've collected from from FPL Optimized. So shout out to Sir Talp for his excellent data. So this just shows that the graph here is basically showing that in the yellow is showing your actual number of points versus the expected average number of points that you would have expected to pick up. So in this, it says that based on your decisions, you would have expected to be, let's say, 2 points above the average based on the expected points of the players that you picked. And then the whether you're above or below that is generally either under or over performance from your players or other people's players as well. So, what you can see is actually in these on 3 occasions, you've managed to be below that, but on the other, whatever it is, how many game weeks is that? 16? 15 game weeks? 50. So on the other 12, you've been above it. So you've always, your players have always been performing. And if we take this back and I had a look at like game week 1 to 35 in the whole, you've only had it 6 weeks where you've been behind essentially where you would have expected to be.
That is quite significant.
To put that into context,
that's a lot of luck, isn't it?
Just to put that into context, Baker and I both have had it 16 occasions we've been behind it.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and it's a case of putting yourself in a position to get lucky, right?
I think a big point on this though is because if you look at the weeks where there are, it's an overperformance. I think those are a few of them. The 3 biggest ones I can see on there, or maybe even 4, are weeks I captained Son, and Son is a player who will outperform his expected stats anyway. So I don't know.
The players, yeah. Well, no, I do think. I think in general, any expected models or so forth, the key to beating them is consistently getting the explosive players, because you only need one explosion of any kind, and if it happens to be your captain, if you think about it, on a single game week, the most you ever normally see is a predicted score of 8.
Yeah.
Well, a striker that scores 2 goals is already going to get the top bonus, is 50% ahead of their expected. And if a midfielder scores a brace, then you're just so far ahead of it. And so the key is to keep hitting those, and then an explosive midfielder wherever you can get it. So things you mentioned already today about players like Mahrez, Sterling, those type of things, looking for the fullbacks that can explode with a Reece James once. Just getting one of those in, regardless of everything else in your week. The rest of your week can be rubbish. That's enough.
Yeah, it's so true.
Like game week 28, the Coutinho captain or the James captains compared to, I was on Rafinha on that week and so forth. And I had a green arrow that week, but I was expected to have a green arrow and I just got what I was expected to get. Those that had the Coutinho caps, the James caps, left off weeks. And it's, I think there definitely is something that you've got to be continually thinking, how am I going to have that maximum game week and what can I do for it? And mate, smashed it.
Yeah, worked this year. I don't know if it's a sustainable strategy. We'll see how it goes next year.
We'll see. Well, in terms of the types of teams that we've been playing, or the types of basically how our sort of playing styles have differed slightly. So, obviously I've taken a lot more hits than both of you, in truth, and that does explain, why I'm probably at the rank that I'm at. At the same time, I've got you can see I've got more immediate points from my transfers, but not to the benefit of, the difference between myself and you, Dan, which is, 12 hits, 48 points. It's not that same gap. And obviously my captain choices have not been as good as either of you, to be fair.
But it's Captain Salah enough early season.
This is true.
As an assumption, I don't know.
No, it's true. Yeah, and in 26 as well is a big one. But yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I think interestingly is, for thinking about next season, is that this has been a chaotic season. And we haven't used a huge amount of auto subs. So even you, Adam, who's used the most, used 24 auto subs this in 35 weeks. In a real chaotic season of people just missing out with COVID and not finding out till after the deadline, all those things, like we kind of forget those things happen quite a lot earlier in the season. I've only used 13 auto subs. Like, I feel like actually I look at it and think maybe I could go for much more rotation prone players more often.
Weren't half of those Azpilicueta as well?
Yeah, literally most of them were when I went Asp, and he just missed out like 5 game weeks in a row. But that's not a huge amount of number. Even yours, Dan, 18 auto subs all season, does say to me, thinking about next season, of I don't think we need a stronger bench. I mean, we might not have needed a stronger bench as we've needed all this season either. I think a lot of us have always had 15 playing players.
I mean, it depends on how it depends on how you've been planning for your chips, I guess, because you guys both had very clear. Also, Dan, when did you bench boost?
That was
33.
33. When was that? It was like 2 game weeks ago.
Yeah, 33.
30, not 33, maybe.
Yeah, so you were still planning for it. I mean, Baker, you obviously had your sort of wild card free hit bench boost.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, and then you were able to kind of move off from needing that squad depth essentially. But I'm still sort of carrying mine, and I'll be, bench boosting this week. So I guess it depends on how you need to set your team up, and I guess I don't know. I'd like to see this sort of number of auto subs from somebody who maybe like bench boosted game week 1. I think that would be really interesting, because obviously your team setup there is obviously completely different, like straight from the off, because you just go from bench boost to like wildcard game week 4, 5, whatever, and then away you go with your 4.5 million dead guys on the bench, and you probably don't need very much.
Yeah.
Generally, I guess this season would have been a bit odd.
I think in general, though, most of us have had a pretty strong bench, and I don't think it's as needed as it's seen. And maybe because it's doubles as well. Like amount of times I've had double players, and you're like, well, they'll play one of them, and they often do only play one of them.
Yeah.
Cool. What else do you want to look at? Formations?
Yeah, so a little look at formations. See if anything that was there that was there. I thought this was quite interesting of looking at these ones. So the actual average points per formation played, we have to remember that it is so madly skewed by whether you played that formation a double game week or not.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you looked on mine on here, is like my best formation is that I've done 5-3-2 twice, and its average was that 96 points each time I've done it. Well, it's because I've done it twice in a double game week, and it's obviously worked out very, very well because they all played 20 odd games. But it's probably more interesting is the times played it. So, how do you set up the team? So how have you looked to do it? So, Dan, if you look at yours, you've played 3-4-3 a lot, 3-4-3 or 4-4-2 a lot. And when we think of actually even just 3 striker formations, you've played it 17 times. And I think a lot of us would think that 3 forwards has been just a no-go and not worked very well. But
that's so true.
There's you.
Because I set up at the start of the season with a 3-4-3. I think that's probably the main reason why.
Well, I mean, like look at Baker's handle. Look at Baker's Twitter handle. He is Mr. 3-4-3.
It's 3-4-3. That's what I love.
And it's quite strange actually, because you see everyone's spoken about these fullbacks, right? And these, Cancelo, Laporte, Robertson, Trent, any one of Rudiger, James, Alonso. There's a lot of players there, and there are others around that have been around. Matty Cash, Doherty, for example, and you haven't really done 5 at the back, like just 4 times.
No, that's surprising, actually.
I mean, to be fair, actually, if you look at all of us, we haven't really done 5 at the back. But a lot of people have been speaking about big at the back being pretty viable at numerous points of the season this year. So that's quite surprising to me.
Interesting one is, I mean, as I said, we'd have to really look at where those points are. But for most of us, and when we've played 3 up top, it's done worse.
Yeah.
That is that though. So maybe that, the efficiencies, if we'd all moved off it earlier and gone more into what can you get from the defenders, we would have scored more. Is if you look at it, all of us are averaging about 60 points when we play 3-4-3, and we've been consistently over that when we've played something else. So it does feel like we've been trolled by some cheap strikers over this season.
Yes.
Definitely does.
Yeah,
definitely does. So talking of cheap strikers and what we've got, because we've got some cheap strikers in 36 and 37 and 38. Should we talk about next few weeks?
We don't want to have a quick look at I think we should have a just look at our trolls to see who's really screwed us over this season.
You want the trolls?
Let's finish this off. We've got some other slides, but we're probably short on time to go through those. Like captain. Well, no, actually, I want to show this one. This captain pick one. Right, I just want to see, and I've highlighted in here. The highlighted ones are all at the bottom, which I think is quite interesting and quite relevant because the ones I've highlighted for Dan. So Veghorst, you've captained him once, got you 6 points. Can you remember when that was?
Hey.
Cornet, Mr. 10,000 likes.
I remember Cornet.
Yeah, and then obviously Dennis in game week 23. So I'm assuming Weghorst was 27, Cornet was obviously 34, and Dennis was 23.
19, 18, or 20?
23 for Dennis.
The one when everyone did
about
it.
That one.
Yeah,
I'd almost forgotten about that until you just reminded me there.
But all in double game weeks, and all from not great teams, basically.
Yeah.
Which says something, I guess.
It's the only time you've missed, really, isn't it? And you could add, I mean, we're not yellowed your mount, but your mount, but it's the same mount.
Sorry, it is the same mount. Yeah, sorry.
It's the same mount.
My mount's better than your mount. That's why.
Yeah. but interesting on both mine and yours, our 4 worst captains are when we've had a double game week and we've picked a player that you'd never captain in a normal game week.
True. It's so true. It says so much, doesn't it?
And we've got that week coming up in 37.
Oh, God, we haven't, we? Ready for Richarlison then, everyone?
We've got that week coming up where you would not normally captain Richarlison. You would not normally captain a Watkins, a Coutinho. Coutinho has done it in a double game week at least. So at least he has some form of that he has turned up in a double. But your Madisons of the world.
Well, even I've got Ward-Prowse in there I put Ward-Prowse in there when he was averaging like 7.5 points a game.
Yeah.
Like, that's when he was doing it. And I had him for a double and he picked up 4 points, double to 8. I have no idea why I captained Lukaku. Have no idea.
It was, I remember that. That was when everyone brought in Ronaldo, you went Lukaku.
Okay.
I think that was like game week 4 or something like that. He scored the goal. You went early on that. He had that great game against Arsenal, didn't he? And I think you brought him in, and the world brought in Ronaldo, and they both blanked. So,
yeah.
But
a bit disappointed by James.
In general, it does say to me, okay, is it lazy? Like, is it lazy if we just pick someone because they got a double if we wouldn't captain them normally? Because everybody who is a genuine captain option has done pretty well for us over the course of the season. Salah's returned 20 odd points per game. Even if you averaged out the 3 of ours together, then it's about 20 points a game is what he's pulled in. Look at Son for you. 4 times captain, averaging 30 points.
Monster.
Not bad, is it?
It's just massive.
It's just absurd.
Yeah, Son at the right moments. I mean, I tweeted it the other day. Son has carried my FPL season. He really has.
Funny thing is, Kane, though, like people worry about the fact. So this is when you come back to that, do you switch off Kane? But look at it. Like, I've captained him 3 times, averaging 19. You've had captained him once for 26 points. Adam captained him 3 times for an average of 22 points. Yeah. He ain't done bad when you captained Kane. He certainly hasn't. It's just Son has the ability to just massively explode.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. What's the midfield factor? It's just the clean sheets, the extra point. It's a high ceiling than a Kane.
Let's have a look at the players. Let's have a look at the players that have not served us so well, apart from those that are highlighted there. So, who do you want to start with? Start with you, Baker.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So these are the trolls. These are our trolls. So this is Baker. So you've had King. So this is basically, we said anyone who had 3.5 points or less on average.
More than 5 times.
More than 5 times. And you've got Josh King sitting at the bottom there nicely with 1.8 points per start.
5 games. I think this is a really interesting point, what you said earlier, Dan, around actually when you've got players that are not serving you well, just get them out. And if you see it and think it, get them out, and do it. Because some of those ones there, and Bernardo, for example, is reacted, brought him in, and then just always found something else to deal with. Because I was like, well, he could come all right because he's a really good player. And he played really well in loads of those games, but he played really well in defensive midfield for loads of those games as well. And mucked about for 7 more game weeks at a £7.5 million player. So there's like, you can be ruthless on it. But the James and Alonso one, I mean, 24 game weeks I've had of Chelsea wingbacks for an average of 3 points.
That is considering how many points those players have scored over the course of the season. It's just hitting them at the right times, isn't it?
There's hitting the right times, and they are not when I've done them. Like, and the annoying thing is, I sit there and I've got James in my team currently at the moment, and I'm like, you know what happens if I take him out this week?
I hope you do. To be honest,
yeah,
so we might get some luck.
Absolutely do know what happens if I take him out this week. But it's definitely something for me to think of. Actually, just, do you know what? Just if it's not working, take it out, like, and be okay with it. Because I actually feel like it's easier to go back to him as well. Like, James is a very, very good player, isn't he? At some point, he's a brilliant asset for all of them. And it's in the danger space now where I'm like poisoned against him forever because I'm like, of what he's done to me this season. But
James and Alonso have combined for 226 points this season. Nuts.
Considering the game time they've had and the time they've spent out. I say,
what Chilwell did. Chilwell was in until about what, 8, 9?
Yeah.
10 maybe?
They've basically averaged something like 3 points when I've had them and about 10 points per game when I've not. It's been mad. Who's next? Somebody else can have this.
Who's next? Let's go down. So nowhere near as many people on this list, but you do have Brozier sitting there top.
Yeah, that's significant.
And I guess it's coming back to you. You just coming back to you in your mind, like, I kept him that week, and I kept him that week, and I kept him that week.
There was the reason I kept Brozier, despite the low scores, was because I just did not think it was worth spending the transfer on forwards. All forwards were getting 2 points ish anyway, so I would rather just have that cheap forward, play him every week, and spend all the rest of my money in midfield and defence. Well, so I think that's why I didn't cut and run on that particular pick.
It's a lot better, isn't it? Yeah, when you think about it, it's a lot better to spend $5.5 million on a cheap striker and then do nothing than $6 million on a defender that's doing nothing, in a way, isn't it? Because the other option, like you say, is if you move to $5.5 million striker to another 5.5, what are you going to get from it? Whereas if I'd moved James to Robertson, for example, or back in those times, then you just know that would have been a much bigger difference. So I do think I look at it and say, actually, it's funny that you called it out, because we're showing you this now, but you called it out early on that you were like, I'm not sticking with things if they're not going well. It's definitely a lesson.
Yeah. I like, for example, my wild card, my second wild card, it had some tragedies in it. A lot of people laughed at me a lot about my terrible second wild card. So I just took a -12, started again. With some better players, and that seemed to work okay. So yeah, like I said, I don't know if this is going to work on a multiple seasons using the same tactic, but certainly this year it seemed to work.
Yeah, I mean, you got to adapt, but I don't think it hurts to use a strategy that's worked. Again, I certainly wouldn't knock that, not at all. But and then on to mine to finish off. So there's Reece James again.
Join the James Club.
2.8 points per start for me, and I had him for like a 12-pointer as well in there as well. So I know I did.
Yeah, I did.
So I've had him for a 12-pointer, and then the other 12 starts he's got like 25 points, something like that. Ridiculous. So yeah, all the usual suspects there: Gray, Bumo, Dennis. I think loads of us had. Jesus is ridiculous. I think it was around the time, as I said, did I say it earlier before we started, or did I say it after? I can't remember, but I think it might have been before we started. But I had him, right after I did a thread about how much goal involvement he was getting, and he was getting good starts, and then he just fell off a cliff. And I had him for I had him clearly for 6 game weeks where he got an assist, I think. Because as soon as I brought him in, I think Pep started playing him on the right hand side, and it completely screwed him.
Yeah, he did.
I think he brought him on one game, and he just put him onto the right hand side, and then the ball went into Sterling, who was sitting in the middle where Jesus would normally be, and obviously scored. and I was absolutely raging. But yeah, Shaw, Martinelli, Sarr as well in there. Ugh.
We've had some fun, mate. We
Not
all had
great.
fun with Shaw. Remember that?
Yeah.
That feels like this season is draining, mate. Like how long it is.
What
Like,
was
can
he?
everyone?
So true.
What was he? 50%, 40%?
Yeah.
Like 40% owned, wasn't he, at the start of the season? Like,
Those short
straight off the
game
bat.
weeks. They're mad.
It was all the way up until the first wild card, wasn't it? Everyone just stuck with him until that first wild card, and everyone got rid of him.
So long ago, mate. It's
Jesus.
been long, but free to go.
Free to go.
Ready to go.
And these are the fixtures. So, we're seeing this and loads of other graphics continuously on the timelines at the moment. And we've got the graphic from Lego Mane, which clearly shows, sort of the difference between the quality of teams that are being played against in 36 versus 37 and then versus 38. And what it's kind of showing is the teams that have got good fixtures in 36 have great fixtures in 38. And you can move, and I guess this is really shows how good a free hit can be in 37, potentially. Albeit, we've already seen that when we pick double game week players from not great teams, it doesn't necessarily always work.
Is it though? Like that. The only thing I would say is it though? So because the reason 37 is a good free hit is that 38 game week, and you're like, you get that, but is that ignoring the fact that 36 has all of the best teams with a double? And I think it does depend a little bit to what your team is and how much you can really, really lump into those teams. Because are we as bothered, having seen what we just saw on those captain picks, about the doublers that are from Leicester, about the doublers from Palace? Do you really think you're going to get Zaha in 37?
We didn't even start the other game. Fair enough, he came on and scored, but
we'll talk about it. But really, like I'm looking at, say, for example, Saka, and maybe Saka ends up on the bench in 37 for me, looking at my current team. But really, do I want a Zaha or a Maddison over Saka in a big game when they've got to keep winning? Both teams, Tottenham and Arsenal, have got to keep winning. Do I really not want Kulusevski or Kane or Son in 37? I mean, in 37, the only thing I probably would do is I'd probably get Son and Kane. That's one of the big benefits, I think, for it as you go that way. Like the Chelsea one, I think the best thing about 37 free hit is that you can pick the best players from City and Chelsea that play in the cup final, especially if it goes 120 minutes. So I think it is good, but I don't think it's necessarily good because of the doublers. I think it's potentially good because you might be able to pick who's going to play from City and Chelsea, and that you can double up on the two Tottenham boys. But I don't hate the 36 one either. Because I just feel like, what a time. Like KDB, realistically, if you're going to get KDB in your team, it's probably free hit in 36, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if it's a question of Son versus KDB, are you even getting in KDB that way?
But I've seen free hits with Salah, KDB, and Son.
And Son. Well, I mean,
36.
that's just incredible. Like,
and isn't that,
if you can do that, then yeah.
Isn't that like the dream? That when you think about it at the start of the season, what I want is a double where I can have those three all with good doubles. Like the Son's double, still a good double for him in those ones. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm quite, I'm jealous that I haven't got a chip to play to do those free hits, but I'm not sure exactly where I'd go. I think when I initially looked at this, I was straight away into the position of thinking, you got to go 37 on a free hit. But
there's a lot of traps there in 37. You can just see, it's the penultimate game week of the season. Leicester, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, probably all going to rotate quite heavily. Burnley might not rotate as much, but I mean, who are you going to go for there? Maxwell Cornet's not about anymore. Weghorst is can't even get 60 minutes anymore, supposedly. I mean, there's Everton, but then if you're going for Everton players, you can probably just transfer them in this game where you can take the double.
Yeah, exactly. And it's difficult. By the way, guys, Mahrez has just scored.
Oh, I missed that.
Mahrez has just scored.
I turned the game off on my screen. Look better with a white screen behind it.
I mean,
so what do you think that means then for?
I think it's just squad dependent. I think you look at your team and you really, really think about how exposed you might be against some of the teams, and you look at what you've got. If you've already got a Richarlison, if you've already got a Coutinho or Watkins, you brought them in last week, I'm like, probably what you've got with them is probably okay. In 37 is probably fine.
What about 38 for a free hit? Because if you've got Aston Villa, you've got Everton, you're not going to want those players for game week 38.
Yeah. If you looked at my squad, for example, now, a free hit 38 would be the best way, because actually, where I've got no chips, I'm like looking at it and going, right, I'm actually looking at some of the players like Watkins. I've got Watkins and Coutinho. I'm looking at Richarlison, thinking I'm just going to try and ride these games out. But then you just run into 38 and go, oh, Everton are away at Arsenal and Villa are away at City. And you're
don't get too much worse than that, really.
Nah, like I could end. There's a potential that I go into 38 with a front line of Weghorst, Richarlison, and Watkins, and you're like, look at the teams in 38 who've got those at home, and it's like you don't want that. So I don't think 38 free hits even the worst idea.
I quite like it. Because I think also if you're going for a 38 free hit, you can take out your Chelsea players now and get them back in when you know who's had the minutes and who's been playing too much, who's been rested, and target that Watford game at home, which looks like a blinder, really. One of the better fixtures of the whole game week.
Yeah, and that 37 double is the 3 games are all on the Thursday night. So Everton, Palace, Villa, Burnley, and Chelsea, Leicester are all on the Thursday night before the Sunday final game. So you get whoever plays in that Thursday night for Chelsea. Do you think they play again on Sunday if it doesn't matter?
It depends if it matters or not. Well, I mean, again, you would have the benefit of that information by game week 38.
It's still hard, mate. Like Chelsea,
so hard.
if Chelsea get 2 wins from home to Wolves, away to Leeds, and home to Leicester, they can do what they like against Watford.
Yeah, that's true.
You'd still fancy they'd want to go out on a high, though. You'd still fancy that. And these game week 38, when they do the parade around the pitch, etc., they generally want to put their best players out and stuff like that.
Yeah, but Lukaku or Havertz, Pulisic or Werner, Azpilicueta or James, every single player for every single position is good players. They don't have bad players at Chelsea. They've got an unbelievable squad.
Yeah.
So I don't see a way that they don't change 4 or 5 players from cup final, either because it's weekend and then Thursday night. So that's quite a nice gap. So either they play their cup final full strength team, play it again against Leicester, clinch it 3rd place in the bag, and then they don't worry about the Watford one. Or they hedge their bets and they go, if they go to extra time in the FA Cup final, they might go, well, we'll rest them all Thursday night and roll them out, like you say, last game of the season, take the win at Watford. But they won't want that. They won't want the potential opportunity of top 4 to go down to the last game of the season.
No.
Absolutely no chance. They'll want to get that closed off.
But you can see it happening. The form that they're in, the fact that we're probably expecting them to rotate against Leeds, I can see them dropping points at Leeds.
Yeah, but
potentially.
Tottenham have got Liverpool, mate, and then
Yeah, there is that.
Tottenham have got Liverpool, and then it's Arsenal, Tottenham, and somebody's got to drop points.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I didn't. Really think
if Arsenal Tottenham's a draw, that's pretty much enough. They're 5 points clear, and they're miles ahead on goal difference than either of us. So I don't hate the 38 free hit.
Oh, yeah, looking at them, that seems the least risky free hit, certainly. You can't really lose on a game week 38 free hit, I don't think.
Are there any teams that you might look to? I mean, I know it sounds like, roll out the players from City and Liverpool. I guess you would go 3 City, 3 Liverpool if there was still a title race going on, but are there any other fixtures that take your fancy just as a 1 week punt in 38? Would you fancy an Ericsson against Brentford or a Tony against Brentford?
Tony, I think Leeds? Tony stands out. I think we're all going to have a crap strike, like a mid-price crap striker, like a Watkins or a Richarlison. We're going to have everybody's going to have a Richarlison or a Watkins, basically. Yeah. Or they've got an Nketiah this week or something like they've got,
or a Dennis, even a Dennis.
Or a Dennis,
people have him, or Pookie.
Brozier still. Like everyone's going to have someone that they could move to Tony in the last game of the season. I feel like that is a punt that a few could go on.
I don't mind that at all, actually. I don't mind that at all.
You just don't know what lead to be fighting for, do we? That they might really need it. So, and Marsh has been working harder in the defence side. But yeah, so there is some fun. Some fun punts. Zaha, like I know I joke about, but Zaha actually in 37 and then 38 against
United
at home against United when he's got the history with them. Not a bad option. Do you trust Palace twice away? Like all season they've not been great away.
Yeah, probably not.
Who would?
I mean, Zaha, do you trust him at the best of times?
So no chips. Let's just say no chips. Because us two. And effectively, I'm going to say no chips for you, Adam. Because
true. Because bench boost is 36. It doesn't go anywhere else.
Exactly. It's not like you lose your players.
No.
So it's players you're getting in now for the final 3 weeks. Who's out there that you are like, that's the player I want for these 3 weeks that you haven't got at the moment?
Richarlison is the player I think I would say I want the most at the moment.
And same for me.
He's the player I want to avoid the most, to be honest. I
know you hate him though.
Really?
It's personal.
It is a personal bias. Yeah, I just don't like him. But he is historically streaky, right? So he is one of those players that 6-7 games in a row, he'll pull out performances. Used to be the other way around. Used to do it at the start of the season and then just disappear. But no, he is streaky. So if he gets into a vein of form, I guess which he's in at the moment, what is it, 4 goals in his last 5 games? He's a perfectly reasonable option. I've got to move things around to get him in for a game week that's worth it. I've got Kane, right? I've got Kane and Watkins, and I don't really see the need to make a transfer on Dennis when he hasn't got a bad double now, and then the Leicester game isn't terrible for him, as bad as Watford are. And then, his bench fodder. I mean, that's even if he he probably doesn't even make my starting 11 next week. So I'm not really fussed about that. I'm quite happy carrying Kane and Watkins and then maybe even going like a 4-5-1 last day of the season. Not really overly fussed. And because they are cheap, right? Generally. Yeah. I mean, I can always downgrade Watkins to free up some money. I can take Watkins down to a Scarlet or whatever. Well, I've got 3 Tottenham, but you know what I mean. Take him down to a 4-5 and then go up elsewhere. Because that's what I'll be able to do once bench boost is gone. Is I'll just be able to just kill a position and it's going to be up front. So,
do you think we can punt on Leicester?
I think if they go out, I think it'd be interesting to see what happens tomorrow. Nice. It's funny because I said this last week or the week before. I said that a couple of weeks ago with the PSV game, I think it was. But they dominated Roma last week. And were a little bit unlucky. But again, that was at home, so you would expect that. It's going to be a little bit different going out to Rome and trying to do that. So, and it's going to be tough over there for them, to be honest. If they go out, I think that.
Is it a big deal whether they go out or not? Like, I've seen loads of people saying we can all punt on them if they go out. And I'm like, so.
Well, they want to keep players fit and in a bit of a momentum and a bit of a rhythm if they're targeting that final.
But you also, if you've got a final ahead of you, don't you want to play well to get in that final team? Like I actually feel like a lot of people saying, oh, if they go out, they're a better asset. And I'm like, they've got nothing to play for if they go out. Like, literally, as a player, you're just like, get me to summer now because we're going nowhere. Whereas players like Barnes versus Lookman, that's a position that's open for grabs at the moment. Yeah, is Vardy coming back? So Vardy, Nacho, Daka, there's a position there, and even Madison's and Tillman's and Dewsbury Hall and all those, they've got lots of options in many positions. The fullbacks, you've seen them every week at the moment. They're changing like 8-9 players. And I'm like, if I went through tomorrow night, if I was Rodgers, I'd be like, right now, we've got 5 games of the season left. This is you playing to get in that final.
Yeah.
Now that might mean that they rest a fair number of players in that Southampton game.
And the Everton game.
And the Everton game.
And look what's in between.
But you get the Norwich at home game.
You do. But you get the Norwich at home game in a game week where you can pick another player who's guaranteed or going to get close to 180 minutes.
Yeah. And it's tough, isn't it? It's tough. Rodgers said some stuff about injury. Madison said about his old hip and Dewsbury Hall about his one. But then, so on the weekend, that's why they missed out the Tottenham game, complete that squad. But then said they're completely fit for tonight. And I'm like, I just call that bullshit. I don't think it is a recurrence at all. I think he's just saying stuff there. I don't know. Like, Norwich is at home is a fixture where I would expect Leicester to score 3 goals. And I would expect them to score 2 against Watford. And I do expect them to score in virtually every game. And they're going to be...
I am touching them personally. So if you want to go for it, you crack on.
They're going to be low owned because a lot of people are just scared now.
Yeah.
A lot of people have moved off them. Everyone moved off them, didn't they, to the Chelsea boys and stuff like that. So there's no ownership there and so forth. But there's a haul. There's a haul out there. It's just, it's such a dangerous one to go, isn't it?
I couldn't pick it. I couldn't pick it. I mean, you'd kind of hope that. I mean, just because that Vardy's probably the only one I would go with if there was a level of fitness. But then again, I guess that price point is just rubbish. It's just rubbish at this time of the season. So
a couple of others. Robbo, did you play both games?
This game week. Should do. Came off a few minutes early in the...
10 minutes early does not get you a game.
It's usually an indication, though. It is usually an indication. That's
Trent
enough.
came
I'll
off
take it.
Trent came off early last week, mate. Didn't start on the weekend.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So I think the Tottenham game, he'll play against us. He hates us. Of all the players that hate us, Robertson hates us.
Does he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, like, I don't think it was any accident, the Kane thing on Robertson. I don't think that there's a lot there. Like, he should have been sent off a number of times against Tottenham over the years. He's a lot of it's in his character and how he is. He's a big game player and he has a big game mentality. And yeah, there's no love lost between Tottenham fans and Andy Robertson, most definitely. He'll play him. He'll play him definitely. I cannot see a way that he does not play him. The Villa game, though, like 3 days later.
The FA Cup final as well.
Before the FA Cup final. That one would be the one where I'd be like,
Yeah, he's going to play the FA Cup final, isn't he? So that kind of leaves that Villa game for Robbo if he is going to get a rest between now and the end of the season. Or do they just run their players into the ground because, they're fighting on all fronts?
Well, I think you're more likely to run an Alonso, a Robertson into the ground. They are experienced pros. Experienced pros actually manage their body much, much better and they can do it. So people often forget the fact that, Robertson's like 5-6 years older than Trent. Like, actually, everyone thinks the young legs can do it, but those prime legs, like, they just know how to manage himself. He's done it many, many times. He's got those legs he's got those legs. He can just run out those stairs. It's like the old Grand National. It's never a 3-year-old that's winning that. Is these thoroughbreds are the ones that will carry it. So I think he absolutely trusts the likes of Van Dijk and Robertson to just keep chugging out. So it definitely wouldn't surprise me if he played them all. I've seen a few people suggesting they would move off him this week. I'm like, nah, I haven't got him, and I'd love to have him, but it would require too much. With the potential risk, I think it requires too much for me to get him in now. But I definitely wouldn't sideways on him onto Trent, because actually the other thing is, what I'd say is Gomez has played really well when he's came in.
Yeah, really well, surprisingly well. His attacking output is actually far better than I'm sure anyone could have imagined.
Some good quality, not just like he's just sitting up there. Is actually
his delivery is actually really good.
So I think there's as much chance that Trent misses a game that this double game week again as there is Robbo.
Madrid have just equalised, by the way.
Yeah,
have they?
Injury time. We're now in injury time, but
6 minutes of it.
6 minutes
Is
of it.
there?
KDB came off after 70, which is interesting.
Mate,
that's not bad for FPL.
Feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You win FPL if you captain KDB this week.
A lot of people are doing it. I think about 17% on the video I made today.
Wow.
17% on KDB. That was the second place after Salah at 60 or something like that.
I think if I free hit in 36, I think I would be. Yeah, I think it would get me.
No way. Madrid have scored again.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my word, they have.
Oh my word.
So, well, KDB, Mahrez is off. Jesus is off. So that's Foden
Cancelo,
100.
KDB back on.
Foden 120 minutes. Cancelo 120 minutes. Although Walker went off injured, so that was
went on injured as well. To be fair.
Yeah, true.
Wow.
Jesus Christ. So, I tell you what, we should probably do. We should probably have a quick look. Just have a quick look at Dan's team, and then we'll call it a night. I think. I know.
Well, let's just can we stay City? Just one more moment then on that.
Go on then.
We know we've got 120 moments here. Is
maybe that might be another goal. You never know.
Who's still on the pitch? Because that's big for Foden, really, isn't it?
So Foden's going to play 120 tonight.
Yeah.
Laporte and Diaz are going to play 120.
Yeah, I'm not overly concerned about those two.
I wouldn't be overly concerned about them, but you've still got Ake and Zinchenko.
Yeah. But as I say, Walker's gone off injured. So
Cancelo,
you'd expect Cancelo, you'd need him to go back down to right back.
Well, at least a game, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that Wolves away one. We've talked before about the bigger teams that he'll use Ake as left back. If there's a game that he's playing Ake at left back, it's against Wolves. Free centre back team. And Jimenez. I'd fully expect Ake to play left back in that game. Or you play Stones at right back. So you could easily play a back four of Zinchenko, Laporte, Diaz, and Stones.
Yeah.
Because he's got the two options of what he does. He quite likes Stones at right back and then play a Cancelo or Zinchenko at left, or play Cancelo and then play an Ake on there where he needs the bigger teams. Both West Ham and Wolves in that 36-37 are your bigger team players. But that 37 one, that 36 one, sorry, that Wolves game now, I think one of Ake or Stones plays in that one. That could be an issue for Cancelo.
But I think enough people have Cancelo that really no one's going to move off him. So,
that's true.
Provided it's a bit of a pain for bench boosters, I guess, more than anything, because you're not going to have. Well, you'll probably get you're going to get some minutes out.
Like you say,
you're going to get
everyone's
some
got him,
out.
haven't they?
Yeah,
everyone's got him.
So it's not. But it doesn't really make a difference, to be honest.
But then do you double up? So if you haven't doubled up on City now,
I don't think I'd be going for Foden now.
But like defense, so like Laporte, a lot of people looked at saying, well, I've got only Cancelo, I want Laporte. I've only got Laporte, I want Cancelo.
Yeah, a lot of people are. Well, I mean, Ederson maybe. I know a lot of people are making keeper changes.
See, if you get Laporte in that second game against Wolves and Cancelo misses out, those that have just got Cancelo, suddenly you've got a 20% owned, 30% owned City defender.
Yeah.
Suddenly you've got virtually a differential. That kind of entices me a little bit more into Laporte than previously, because if Cancelo misses a game, it's like fantastic in a weird way. Yes.
Interesting. Well, more food for thought, that definitely.
Makes it a little harder to come off Chelsea, I think, as well. A little bit now. Is a lot of people have got Alonso, a lot of people have got James, and you're like, are they really going to get less games than some of the others out there? You know, would you go an Alonso or go a James to a Robbo or Cancelo if you had the money?
I definitely wouldn't move Alonso.
I don't think I'd take out Alonso. No,
I think Alonso out of the two. I mean, if you think of James, I mean, there's no one else. Okay, you could play Saul out there, or you could play Malang Sarr, maybe.
I think Alonso, I think just
Alonso just plays every game now. There's 5 games, right? There's 5 games for them. I think he just plays every game.
Yeah.
So I think if you've got Alonso, I wouldn't move off him at all. Reece James, you know, I was considering it, and he was sort of number one target if I was going to take a hit and move a doubler on. He was kind of where I would look to move on from. But I might make a different move now. So
yeah.
So
fun games.
Yeah. So this is what you've sent across to us, Dan. I say this is what you've sent across because you've already said this is going to be a load of rubbish.
This is my bus team.
Cool.
So
yeah. Have you made any moves yet?
No,
at all?
Nothing. I've not set on anything yet either, to be honest. So if I couldn't even tell you what I was going to do if I tried, because I am not sure. I know a few players I want to get an Everton player, whether that's Richarlison or Gordon. I'm not sure. They're not easy to get to. I don't really want to sacrifice any of those midfielders, really.
No, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because you wouldn't mind benching Cash, I imagine, if you needed to, but you don't want to sell him because you've got the next one. So it's the Brozier and Wood, isn't it?
Still there. The team for people listening is Schmeichel in goal, Trent, Robbo, Cancelo and Cash, Salah with a captain's armband, Son, Mount, Saka, Kulusevski and Weghorst up top with Ramsdale, Brozier, Wood and Burn on the bench. So
I just need a double game week forward and I'm done, basically.
And drop Cash to the bench.
Well, yeah. I don't know. I'd be okay with playing him.
Would you play Cash over Kulu then, maybe? On that team?
You got
Weghorst up top.
I've got Weghorst up front, so he would go. That's all right. He would go for whatever striker. It could be Nketiah, could be Pookie or Dennis, or I can try and find some ridiculous differential and just hope. Kind of undecided. But I also kind of want an Everton player somewhere.
You are an Arsenal fan, yeah?
I am, yes.
What's your thoughts on Nketiah for this double?
Looks pretty good. I think he should start both of them. We're trying to get him to sign a contract, but he won't sign a contract unless he gets game time. So Lacazette is leaving, so he's not too much of a minutes threat. And Nketiah is playing well as well. He's playing very well. So there's no real reason to rotate him. And he loves the club as well. That's another thing. Nketiah always speaks very passionately about Arsenal. And I'm sure, even if he is going to leave, he would love to finish off by delivering the 4th place to Arsenal.
He's got a lot of self-belief in him. The other night, you just see the way he's like, I'm taking the chance, I'm taking the chance, I'm taking the chance.
He's a good finisher. Genuinely not a bad finisher at all, really.
You can kind of see it in the fact that he misses target. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's because he's going for the corner. Like, he got that bit where he opens his body and he whips that right foot, and it's like, yeah, they're good. If they hit the target, they look like they're going in.
He knows how to sniff out a goal as well. That's always been his thing. Like poaching. He's like when he's played in the cup games and stuff. So I like him. I do like him, to be fair. So maybe he'll be in my team come game week 36. Maybe not. We'll see.
Would you? Here's one for you for the run-in, for no-hit running. Nketiah for free or Richarlison for a hit?
Well, that is pretty much my decision for the game week. I think
that's quite a lot of us in that position.
I don't know. Because again, the other thing is you take too much Everton and then you find yourself in game week 38 with too much Everton.
And they're more expensive. So it's not only the fact that it's 4 points less to go down to Nketiah, it's that you've then got more money to do more for the next. And then
you've also got to sacrifice a midfielder. Who are you going to get rid of from your midfield? Am I going to get rid of a Kulusevski or a Mason Mount, or some similar people will be in the situation with Havertz? It's difficult to say who you're going to get rid of.
I think you've almost got to try and work through who do you fancy captain in 37 first, because I think Richarlison is a big captain option, isn't he?
He is, yeah. But you could always do it we get him next week instead. You could maybe do a Nketiah in this week, and then maybe a Weghorst to Richarlison next week or someone like that. If you've got, or a Chris Wood, if you've got him floating about still.
Like yourself.
Yeah. For some reason.
Yeah.
There's options.
I think it's
There's no pressure on those options whatsoever.
I think it's a good, nothing riding on it, mate. Not much going for it.
Oh, kill me.
But yeah, especially with that little Arsenal bit extra on it, I think there's a big one there. It is quite a easy move for a lot of people to go to Nketiah if they haven't got him.
Yeah, really easy move. Particularly, a lot of people have got Broja still, and Broja to Nketiah is like one of the most obvious ways of gaining points possible this game.
Yeah, it is. It is. And just in general for the next 3 weeks, what's your thoughts on hits?
I don't know. If you've got a good team, then do you really need to take hits? I think a lot of people fall into this trap of wanting the perfect team every week and forgetting that if you've got good players, like even if they're cheaper players, Saka, Kulusevski, it doesn't really matter who they play. To just hold them rather than taking hits to optimize for the game week, maybe. I don't know. That's usually where hits come into play anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
there's not enough time, is there, really, to get a long-term benefit from a hit?
I mean, that 38 hit, is madness. Realistically, unless it's for a captain option, a 38 hit is hard to, because basically they start a goal down, don't they? Every single player you hit in starts a return down.
Yeah.
You don't get to make that back. A 2-pointer effectively starts on 6 points by not hitting.
Yeah. And yet everyone will do it because they'll try and chase final game week points and try and make a last minute difference. Try and get to the top 10K or try and win in winning league or whatever. Everyone will do it. They've
got to be an explosive option, and then they have to explode just to simply do that. And the player that you've taken out has to blank. Yeah. Is if that person you take out gets anything, then you've lost on it. So I think unless it facilitates captain, but I think we do have to all look at that in this next 36, 37 thing of 38 still a game week. And it's traditionally just the most high scoring game week in terms of goals. And so it's still a big game week.
It's a scary game week.
It's a scary one. Yeah, I'm gonna be in America for that game week, and they've just changed the deadline because the deadline was 3 hours before the game week started, and they've finally moved it back to an hour and a half before.
I didn't catch that.
Did that help you?
6:30 in the morning.
Lovely.
Oh.
Having going on a lad's holiday the night before getting into Phoenix at about 5 o'clock local time, having had a long flight, going out, and then the deadline's at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah, you're going to need to be locked in a lot earlier.
Oh,
I'm just pleased actually in a way that the game week, the season will be over at 10 o'clock in the morning. Done.
Yeah, that's true. You can just enjoy the rest of the day,
Yeah.
or not,
I don't.
depending on what happens.
I've played long enough to do it, but actually, for the last 3 years with my son, I haven't been. The only time I've been abroad in the last 3 years was me and Adam went to the Champions League final and was really bad. So other than that, I've not been on a different time zone other than this one. So I'm just looking forward to the idea of football in a different time zone. It will be cool, but
It's kind of fun. It's kind of novel, isn't it?
6:30 deadline final game.
It's novel in short bursts. I'll let you know that, because you may not know. I used to live in the Far East, so watching Tottenham at 4 a.m, 3 a.m, consistently for 5 years, that's hard.
How do you do it?
Discipline.
How do you do that?
Discipline. Madrid are winning 3-1.
Oh my word!
Penalty.
Wow.
Penalty. That changes everything if City are out.
Now, boys.
What is happening?
No, I think we got to call it now and watch the rest of this game.
Yeah, I'm going to watch this game.
Yeah,
we got
to do that.
Boys.
So, yeah, thanks very much for everyone who's joined us on stream. Obviously, the football's obviously been brilliant, and I'm going to need to screen record this to get the audio, because I forgot to click record at the start, so we've got no pod. Amazing! What a great start. Good stuff. But yeah, no. What was I going to say now? Yeah, on the podcast, remember to... No, I don't even know what I'm saying now. I'm gone.
Subscribe,
all that stuff.
Everyone already subscribes to Dan, so there's no one here that doesn't already, probably.
Yeah.
But for those that don't, Dan, what's your channel called?
FPL Mate.
Easy
as that.
Good stuff. Well, I really appreciate you coming on this evening, mate.
No, I really appreciate you having me on. Like I say, I don't do these things too often, and it's always good fun to just chat about FPL with other people. So thank you for having me, and it's been an insightful chat in many ways as well.
Good stuff.
I've enjoyed myself.
Good luck, mate.
Let's call it there. Speak to you later.
Cool.
See you later.
Cheers.